It's Video Friday. AC here with Eaton Compressor. Check out our interactive parts catalog and how simple it makes this valve replacement job. Okay, let's get started. So let's go to eatoncompressor.com. When you get to eatoncompressor.com, you're going to come over here under Resources and down to Manuals and MSD. Let's open that up. And then you're going to come over here to our Interactive Parts Manual. Okay, now under our Parts Manuals, Interactive Parts Manual, you're going to see that there's two different pump models. Our goal is by the end of this year is to have all of the pump models with interactive graphics, but it's quite a task. So for now we have two. We have the inline 5 horse and the 10 horsepower V4. So let's just open up the 10 horsepower V4. And if you notice, you have your pump and you have basically 6 categories: orientation, parts list, parts kits, maintenance, bolt pattern, and pump dimensions. So for this tutorial, we're going to stay with the parts list. Let's click on that. If you'll notice now, we have basically 8 categories in this one. The one we're going to be looking at is the head and valve. And again, when something turns green, that means you can go ahead and click on it and it'll open it. So let's open the head and the valve. Now we're basically viewing the head and the valve assembly. One thing I do want to point out is that this is a right head. It is a mirror image of the left head, so if you're repairing both heads, you would want to double your order quantities. Also, it says to click on the head to view the entire valve train exploded. So if I look at the head, it turns green, click on that, and now you can see all of the components that go into the head and the valve train. And again, we call this interactive because as I move up and down my parts list, it will highlight what the component is graphically. Or if I go graphically, it goes in reverse and highlights the text. It tells you the ID, the quantity, etc. I do want to point out too that if there's a bolt, there's a torque spec right over here. So this gets a little busy for sometimes first-time users. So I'm going to go back to previous. And if you also notice that it points out what is a low pressure exhaust, what's a low pressure intake with an unloader assembly, low pressure valve intake assembly, a high pressure intake assembly, and a high pressure exhaust assembly. Again, if you hover over each of those, they will highlight green. Now you can go in and look at something in its exploded state for just that particular valve train itself, which makes it a little more simple. Now you might want to say, well, wait a second, what parts do I need to replace in here when I go to do an overhaul? That's simple. We're going to come back to that. Okay, so let's hit our home button. That takes us back over to the home page. And now we're going to go to parts kits. And here you're going to see that we have valve rebuild kits for the low pressure, high pressure, low and high pressure, and some other kits below that. So since we were just strictly working on the high pressure at the time, let's go look at that. Or no, let's just say you want to go get both low and high pressure valve rebuild kit. We'll click on that. Here you can see that all 5 valves are listed, plus the gaskets, copper rings, O-rings, etc. And those fall under a valve kit 003. Bill of material is below that. When you're ordering, you're going to get the valve kit 003, but one point to make, it's required 1 per head. You have 2 heads, so obviously you're going to make a order for 2 valve kit 003s. So once you order the parts, they come in, but you open the box, just simply come back over here to our parts list, open this guy back up. Let's go back to this particular valve train that we had torn apart. And here you can see the order that the widgets go back together to kind of help you in your reassemble process. So hopefully this makes your valve rebuild experience better. AC out.